One of the worst kept secrets in the NTT IndyCar Series paddock is finally official, with Team Penske signing David Malukas to replace Will Power. Now, Malukas was signed to a multi-year contract to drive the number 12 Horizon Chevrolet alongside teammates Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin. It's no secret that the driver nicknamed Little Dave will have some big shoes to fill. During his time with Team Penske, Power won 2 IndyCar championships, the 2018 Indianapolis 500, scored 45 race victories, and became the greatest qualifier in IndyCar history with 71 poles and counting. Now, Roger Penske said he feels that his organization will provide Malukas with everything he needs to take the next step in his career and feels confident that the 23-year-old will continue the great legacy of the number 12 Horizon car, a graphic courtesy here of Team Penske. And Kobe, throwing to you on this one, we knew it was coming. It was advertised well in advance. How much pressure is now going to be on Malukas to be able to perform in year one, and what are your expectations for him at Team Penske?
Well, anytime you're signed to drive an IndyCar for Roger Penske, you're expected to, go out there and compete with the best of the best in the series. And, and obviously, like anywhere in racing, you're going to be compared to your teammates more than ever. And we all know this year, Team Penske, for the most part, struggled all throughout the IndyCar season until they caught fire towards the end with Will Power, who's no longer with the team, and Joseph Newgarden catching wins in 2 of the last 3 races. And I think if David Malukas can finish close to Scott McLaughlin and Joseph Newgarden in the points, that'll be declared a successful first season for him at Team Penske. But, unlike Scott McLaughlin, I don't think David Malukas is going to have, I think his leash is going to be a lot shorter than it would have been, with Scott McLaughlin, because when Team Penske brought McLaughlin over from supercars, this was a completely foreign concept to him, open wheel racing, after driving in big, heavy supercars. Yeah, so with David Malukas, he has quite some experience in open wheel racing, and obviously he's been in IndyCar for a few seasons now, unlike McLaughlin, who just come over here cold turkey and was remarkably able to adapt, like a duck takes to water to the IndyCar style of racing. And David Malukas, since he already has that IndyCar experience, he's not going to be given the same amount of grace as someone like a Scott McLaughlin, who you thought would need a lot more time to get up to speed. And looking at the history of Team Penske, they don't really make a lot of mistakes often when it comes to IndyCar. Usually they put a guy in their car and they go out there, perform, and do the job that needs to be done, until the performance, starts to fall off a little bit, like it did for Elio Castroneves. Simon Pagenaud, obviously, Will Power never fell off, but, he got the boot. Yeah, so usually if you're a Team Penske IndyCar driver, you don't see anyone underperform in this car. I can't even remember the last time someone drove full-time for Team Penske, and completely disappointed with this organization. So I'm sure David Malukas doesn't want to become the first Team Penske IndyCar driver in a long time, not to meet expectation. Following a legend like Will Power, obviously going to be really tough for him to overcome that. But given what we've seen from him so far in IndyCar, I think he has the potential to do some great things with Team Penske, especially on the oval tracks. Looking at all the ovals next year, I think David Malukas on a Penske car can potentially win that. His biggest issue so far, he's could have won IndyCar races before, but he was either, caught up in an accident on the track or, like a slow pit stop, ended up ruining a much better finish. So I think if David Malukas can get the execution of the race down and start executing more instead of having, things go halfway right and halfway wrong, I think we could see David Malukas win an IndyCar for the very first time in 2026. And although he has shown speed on the road and the street courses as well, I think David is, going to have to work and improve that. And, Team Penske, actually this year they haven't been as great, on those tracks that they have been in the past. But towards the end of the season, they seem to have found something as their new leadership group, has a full offseason under their belts and build towards next season. Hopefully, having some consistency there will help this program get back to where it was before this, mostly underwhelming 2025 season. But all in all, I think David's going to be under quite a bit of pressure, and he's going to have to prove to everybody that he is worth this drive at Team Penske.
Well, good evening, guys. Much talked about move finally gets announced. I had Malukas as my pre-season Indy 500 pick for this year. So now he's in a Penske car. Surely that he's going to be in the mix, perhaps on the ovals, as you say, Toby. Probably still got some work to do on the road and street tracks, but on the ovals he'll go well. And to your point, I was just trying to think of the same. Who was the last Penske signing that flopped in their IndyCar paddock? Because of course, sort of since the reform, when was that? 2007. It was Helio, Will, Simon, Pagenaud. Then obviously Newgarden came in, and now Scotty Mack. There hasn't been anyone else. Obviously, before that was Sam Hornish, Gilles de Ferran, those kind of guys. There hasn't really been anyone that has gone in there and done a year, maybe two, and then been moved aside for however long. If you're watching this and get in the comments and tell us who was the last guy that Roger had to give the boot to for various reasons, because we're struggling. But this is a really good signing, and he's 23, he's still young, he's still learning. Good for Verizon as the partner to get a young guy in there that is decent enough on social media as it is, and he can do all the sponsorship stuff that they will need him to do. And Bus Bros assemble, because it was on Bus Bros all those years ago where the Little Dave nickname was coined by Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin back in the day, and now all three of them are teammates. Of course, after all that stuff, they all kind of fell out a little bit, but now they're all back together and they're going to be teammates again in the Penske camp for next year. So, and as you say, Kobe, once they've got this new engineering set up down through the off season, and of course the IndyCar season is probably the longest of all of the championships that we cover on the Grid Network. They've got plenty of time to put their heads in their laptops and figure some stuff out. I guess once we get to pre-season training in February before St. Pete, we're going to know sort of where Malukas is going to be within his new team. I think he'll go well, and I agree. I think he'll probably, well, more than likely pick up a win during the year next season.
I've got several places where I think he could win, Gateway being one of them as well.
Absolutely.
He's
Phoenix.
always good there. Phoenix, yeah, it's second round.
That would be big, wouldn't it? Second race in the car, bang, win.
I would not put it past him. I really wouldn't. That would be something that, although he did crash at Nashville, didn't he? But do we really count that as a him fault? Still went through on the inside and took up the road. I don't know if you've seen that one yet, Matt. I'm actually thinking about it.
Was that the one with Louis Foster?
Yeah.
That one. I think most people thought that was more of a Louis Foster thing than a David Malukas thing.
Good.
In that situation, but yeah, like I was saying, the execution with David Malukas has been one of the biggest issues. He has a lot of raw talent, he has the speed, but he needs to execute a complete race from start to finish. And although Malukas had a lot of speed with AJ Foyt racing this past season that just wrapped up, I noticed in the pits, the pit crew sometimes let him down and cost him some positions on track. Track position, depending on where they're at, is more important than ever. And I feel like that also held him back. But Team Penske, they're going to have the best of the best on the pit lane, and if he doesn't have a pit crew letting him down, I think he'll get along fine, and also he'll have some room to grow.
To go to Adam's point here, I will say he'll win 3 races next year. I think he'll win Phoenix, Gateway, and I'm thinking either Road America or Mid-Ohio. I think that's the 2 road courses I think he'd go well at. That's what's been rattling around in my brain while I was reading Adam's comment down there.